Hey, took a minute. Took a minute to get on Gorgeous Borges. Hey,
Technical
I'm
difficulties,
sorry.
Sam.
I'm sorry for those of you who are left here. Hey, you're troopers for hanging with us through it. I was just about to throw in the towel, and Al said, "Look, I'm not gonna give up. I want to see the people." So I promise we will have the technical difficulties figured out next week. Okay. That way we start on time. There are no issues and everything is good to go. Again, apologies for the late start for this first edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown with Al Borges. Al, I would say, did you pull your hair out, but you don't have any?
That's pretty funny, Sam.
Coming from me, huh? I got a bald head too, right?
I know it. I know it. Oh, Sam.
Hey,
I'm so excited. Football, we're back. We're
yeah,
back, Sam. We're
yeah,
back.
we're
Hey,
back. It's like
Sam,
it's
How was the Monday Morning Maniac yesterday?
he was good.
Good.
He was good. He sounded a lot like you, Al, because
Oh, that's
he was
frightening.
talking about footwork. He was talking about
Yeah.
footwork. He did say how much he misses you, though, Al.
Oh,
You know,
come on, Sam.
Devin, he's ascending. He's the Emmy Award winning guy. He's moved up to the number 2 crew with Fox now. So you
Yeah,
know
no, he's big time. Yeah. He
he's
misses me like he misses severe gas pains, okay? I don't think it's real little disingenuous, but whatever. I'll take anything I can get, you
and,
know?
and let me just say, I look, Al, over 100 people hung around a half hour waiting for you. So you
Uh,
got to give the people what they're
uh,
looking for.
I love him. I love him. I love
Right.
him.
So yeah, people are happy to see you, Al. It's Al Borges, nobody better. Uh
That's my wife sent that, I think. No, no, that's
Gorgeous Al. So the people they're happy. They'll forgive you, Al, as long as you give them some nuggets today. We
yeah,
give
we'll give it to we got some nuggets, Sam. We got some good stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
so
we got
we
something to
will
work
be
with.
let me give people the schedule, by the way.
Okay.
So uh normally we'll be doing Al at noon on Tuesdays. Okay. So set your calendar, set your clocks, your reminders. So Monday morning quarterback is 9 to 10. And then the film study, we record that Monday night, but the film study will go up after the breakdowns with Al and Vance. So 9 to 10 with Devin, Monday, noon to 1 with Al, Tuesday, 5:30 to 6:30 with Vance, Tuesday. So Vance later this afternoon. And then right after I'm done with Vance, knock on wood, that's when the film studies start going up. So the film study with Devin goes up at that time. And then the film studies with Al and Vance go up on Wednesday. So we got, hired some people, some people
Okay.
to produce and cut up film. So now we won't be into Thursday with breakdowns and whatnot. Everything will be up by Wednesday. All right.
So Devin's first,
Devin's first.
and then the corrections after that.
Right. And then some Devin never talks about defense after that, right? Oh,
Or running game.
by the
Run
way,
game or defense, forget about it. Yeah.
speaking of Devin, so you guys do get more Devin too. Because
Oh no.
we're doing a new live show Wednesdays at 6 o'clock called Steady Dropping Dimes. It's with Devin Gardner and the basketball version of Devin, which is my man Daniel Horton. So we're going to talk a little Michigan, but we're going to talk all sports. Those guys want to talk about Coach Prime. They're like, we got to talk about Coach Prime.
Oh yeah, I gotta talk about this prime.
They want to talk about that when they want to be all over that. They want to talk about the NFL. As you know, Devin, he did the Lions preseason, so he was there all throughout camp and whatnot. So we new show tomorrow starting at 6, where we talk Michigan, but we really venture outside of the Michigan bubble. We also talk a lot about Ann Arbor because we all love Ann Arbor. We're going to talk a lot about that as well. But Al, let's dig into the ECU game, the offensive breakdown. Give me your broad brush as you look back at the 30-3 victory. What did you see? What do you think?
Well, it was a little more of the same from the end of last year, Sam, where they're shutting down those inside running lanes, filling those gaps and making that duo play as hard as they can to for Michigan to run. Okay. That's the first thing that jumped out at me is what is no. And so, okay, if that's the case, what's the answer? Right? That's the first thing I thought of when the first 4 plays of the game, I think were all some variations of duo plays. Now they were backed up. Okay, they were on the 1 and 2 yard line, so they couldn't be real flamboyant with their play calling. But it gave you an idea on how ECU was going to think. They're all watching the tapes from last year. Who stopped Michigan? Who contained Michigan? Okay, and they're taking pages out of those books to get that stopped and implementing them into their own plan within the structure of their defense. Not necessarily exactly the way TCU did it, but with the same conceptual thinking. Okay. That's what jumped out at me right away. Okay. So we've talked about this at nauseum. What's the answer? What's the answer? Well, I was excited. The answer was run the ball outside, which they went to. Now, not with the yield that you'd like. I like to see them get a few more yards, but taking the ball down the field with that crowded box. Oh, there was some nice plays that we're going to telestrate, talk about, and dissect so that people can understand what's the answer. The answer is efficient quarterback play, which they got, and good structure within their play action game to get people open. Remember play passes, Sam. They clear out the reads for the quarterback. When you drop back, they all drop and ascend into their zones, and you got to read them and watch what they do. But when you play pass, they all suck up and clear out those zones, and now you can take big old bites. And you're going to see that when we get into more detail in the telestrations. But that jumped out at me more than anything. There were several things we'll talk about in the bitter and the sweet, the good and the bad, what we saw. But that really was the test, right? Do we have counters to crowded and aggressive boxes? And I think they did.
So to me, I'm surprised you didn't lead with this because what you said to me after the game, let me pull up the text that I got for you because you said it in the box as well. You were talking about something you were all over last year, gorgeous Borges, and that was number 9's footwork. You were
Oh,
just,
yeah.
it used to drive you nuts. And after this game, you're like, hey man, this is a different guy. This is a different guy.
Different guy, Sam. Different guy. Quantum leap. Someone has built him from the ground up again, Sam. You with me?
I'm with you.
And taken him, his skill set, and developed his skill set within the structure of the offense. Okay. And this is what was exciting to me as I texted you in the middle of the game, and I told you he's made a quantum leap fundamentally. Every pass is now being thrown with his feet moving toward the target when the protection allows, because sometimes you got to skip around it and back out and front out and put yourself in position to make the throw, which he did too. He did that also. But I really was excited that he looks like he's taken that next step that can take their passing game to that next step. So, yeah, that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, man. Kirk Campbell. You can see the Kirk Campbell influence on there big time. That he just was spot on. You really saw it when he was on the move. Al, improv is the time. I hear you talk about it all the time. That's where, hey, guys, just making a play. A lot of times fundamentals. That's the place where it's easiest for them to leave. And you noticed every time he broke contain, every time he got outside the pocket, he kept his head downfield. He stayed in his passing profile. He made plays like
He
that.
made plays. Here's the deal, okay? With high school quarterbacks, I learned this back when I coached Cade McNown at UCLA. With high school quarterbacks, they're so much better than the people they're playing that any time that something breaks down in the passing game, they completely rely on their athleticism to bail them out, and they could do it. Hell, I used to say if Cade in high school dropped back 10 times, he could turn and run for a touchdown, probably about 5 of them, and not even think about passing. Well, college is a different game, man. Things are happening differently. So you've got to be able to beat the defense with your arm and your legs. And there'll be times when he's going to have to take off and run and do that stuff. But first, you got to give it a chance with your feet put in position. You're always in that profile where you can make that throw. And he was spot on in this game. You're going to see several examples of it where he could have run. He could have run, but he didn't run because he knew you pass for miles, you run for yards. Okay, and I think there's so much evidence in this game that it'll bear itself out.
So the play pass, that was that was the most effective answer to ECU stacking the box. And I know I think they were 4 for 4 on play passes in this game. One was a DPI, but that counts as a successful play.
Sure.
Al, I mean, 4 times. It felt like more than that.
Yeah.
It felt like we didn't see them, be even attempt that many in one game for the first half of the season. Maybe they did, but this felt like a pickup from where they left off last season from a play pass standpoint, and not a repeat of where they were at the beginning of last season from a play pass standpoint. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. There's no, well, all you have to do is watch the TCU game. I mean, that you saw the chunks that they took out of TCU's defense with their play action. They just picked up where they left off. Where a year ago, I mean, we were talking, I mean, a quarter to halfway through the season, where's the play action? They're running so well. Why aren't there more play action passes called? Well, they just started the season doing what they're probably going to do the entire season. And that being to take at least 2 to 3 shots a half, okay, where they can run layered routes, run middle floods, do those types of things, pull the defense up, throw the ball behind them, and give those receivers a chance to run after catch. Again, Sam, it's so much better for the quarterback in terms of reading the defense because defenders are eliminated by playing the run, and you don't have to read that buzz. I call the buzz being the underneath defenders who get underneath those throws and can cloud the quarterback's vision a little bit in terms of where to throw it. Play passes are much more definitive with regard to reads.
So give me your analysis from a coaching, a coordinator standpoint. Similarities in how ECU, TCU, and Illinois is strategized to try to limit Michigan's run game. What similarities did you see there?
Okay. Number one is the crowding of the box, which is not news. I mean, everybody does that to them, right? I mean, putting 8 where you only have 7 blockers, it's every week. I mean, that you better play them like that because you try and 2-gap them, you're going to get crushed. That's what Iowa tried to do, and they had no chance. And they're a good run defense team as a general rule. So that's number one, but that's just part of it. The biggest thing I think is the run pressures with the movements up front to blow up vertical running seams on the duo play. Now, let me explain that in a little more detail. Duo. What does duo mean? I don't know if we've ever really explained this. Duo is short for double teams, okay? Double teams. What teams are doing to slow Michigan's run game down is disallowing double teams by filling gaps quickly. Now, there's a lot of ways to do that. You can rifle 2 safeties off the edge and return the front back like Illinois did several times. You can fill gaps instantly off run-throughs, which TCU did, which takes those guys off those double teams, Sam. Now you got a single block, which now leaves more margin for error in terms of people falling into gaps and closing those running lanes and not allowing any movement up front. You understand? Because you get a lot better movement when 2 guys are blocking one than when only 1 guy's blocking one. So this is the thinking, I think. And ECU did not the same. They didn't run exactly the same schematic as TCU did, but the end of the day, they ended up in the same gaps to take away the duo play, take away the double teams, hence take away the duo play. Okay, so I think that's most common is add defenders, close down gaps with either movements or blitzes into all those gaps so that you're taking away double teams. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense. So here's the question, because again, Michigan's most effective solution: throw the football. But what's the run solution? I thought coming out of halftime, if you were listening to the broadcast, I didn't listen to the broadcast, but I heard some of the halftime commentary. Jason Avant, who's the sideline reporter for the Michigan broadcast, they said, "Hey, so what did Jesse Minter say?" And he said, "Well, Coach Minter said we got to get outside. We got to get our outside zone going." You remember we were watching the TCU game? We were like, they got to get outside. We talked about that before the game. They got to get outside. They got to get outside. How do you get outside? Jesse Minter said we got to get to our outside zone. You can't just. I think a lot of the fan perception is just run outside zone. The same as you run it just as effectively as inside zone, and that's
correct.
to enough offensive coordinators to know it's not that simple, right, Al?
No, no, because you major in certain things. You know, it's like anything else. You only be so good at so many things. Okay, but that said, you have to be good enough with your outside run game to have an answer to them blowing those gaps up. And Michigan did. They did. During the course of the game, Michigan ended up running 6 duo plays, which is below their normal. Now, remember something, Sam, there's going to be less plays. They only ran 62 plays in this game. Because the new rule changes, they've gone to the NFL running clock on first downs. You're getting less plays. So you're getting less duo plays anyway, right? But what Michigan did, they only ran 6 duo plays, and they went to more of an outside approach, whether it was with the stretch play, which they ran, I believe, 5 times, the fly sweep, or the which is really just stretch blocking the way they did it. They ran that a couple times. They ran a pitch play, okay? So they had answers. You hit on the head the best answer. The best answer is to play past that aggressive front and take a bite out of their ass right now. But you're not going to be able to do that every play. Okay. So the next answer is to find a way to get the ball outside. Now, they only explored a couple of options that way. They didn't run a reverse, which they generally do in a game, and they didn't run their quarterback at all, which I wouldn't have done either.
Right.
Okay. As the season progresses, they'll do more of that. I'm sure you'll see, and against the better teams. But they did have an answer to it, and the stretch play wasn't bad. The fly wasn't bad. They were good plays. They didn't have the yield that the duo would have when it's run 13 times a game, but they were effective. So they do have an answer. Play pass them and find a way to run the ball outside.
All right. So yeah, I expect that to be something they work in practice this week. They won't get away from who they are. I think they'll still feel like they can run inside on teams that try to do that to them. That's why, look, that ISO play that they ran out the gate against TC, I was shocked. But you talked to them about it. We knew that would work. Now they wound up having to vary from that and get outside more. But I bring that up to say they're still going to try to run inside on these teams, and I think they probably will effectively against some of these squads as they also work their outside run game. Here's another question for you, though, Al, and I want you to theorize for me because I don't have any intel on this. I haven't asked any coaches about this. No RPOs.
Mm.
Why?
Yeah,
Why? Why do you think there is a dearth of RPO for them? I'm going back to last season. I mean,
right. And none
why
in this game, right?
yeah, and
None in this
in
game.
this game, why do you think that is? If you were in their head, what would deter you? What would take you off that?
Well, again, it's there's a little less excuse for it this year than there was a year ago. I thought last year was logical because a new quarterback, you're putting a lot of responsibility in his plate. You can't control your run pass ratio because so often the defense is dictating that. Remember, we talked about that a year ago, and you can elaborate on that a little bit, Sam, because you have a good feel for that. Is when you call an RPO, it might be a run, it might be a pass, and they may want the ball in Blake Corum's hands more than an RPO may allow. Understand? So that could be a reason, but it's more on the quarterback. There's more that he reads that he has to make. Am I going to give it to him? Am I going to pull it? Am I going to throw it? Am I going to have to run it if I can't give it to him or throw it? Uh, there's just a lot of factors there. Whereas if you call a play pass, you know it's a play pass. If you call a run, you know it's a run, right? It's much more definitive and it's less thinking for the quarterback. But I just think at this point, the kid's ready for it, and I'm sure they still have it in the toolbox. It
Yeah,
may not have been something they wanted to feature in this game.
yeah. You think about it this way. Remember that split zone RPO that the Hawaii game? What was it, Hawaii first or second last year? I can't remember. It was the first couple games of the season,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave him RPO. He threw a touchdown there.
Right.
So putting you it's in there. It's in the arsenal.
Yes.
We saw them run it sporadically over the course of the season. You gave the reason why it's a lot on the quarterback. You want to feature your running backs, make sure your run pass ratio is what you want it to be. But now putting together that it's in the playbook and the increased trust that they clearly have in him. Because this was one of the talking points to me as I was getting intel and talking to some of the guys. Look, his pre-snap menu is broader. He's going to change plays. He's going to change protections. We saw him change protection in this game and hit a big play. We're going to show
Yes,
that
he did. Yes,
on
he
video,
did.
right? JJ, he recognizes a blitz coming. He changes the protection. He slides to an open area, opens a window, completes a pass down the football field. So if they have that kind of trust in him, increased trust in him pre-snap, stands to reason they probably do post-snap. I think they're just holding it back, Al. I think it's gonna come. That's just, that's putting two and two together. I don't have intel along those lines, but it
Mhm.
just makes too much sense for that to not be the case.
Yeah, and I think another thing to consider, Sam, is the play caller change too.
Yeah.
Is he's becoming acclimated to what he's comfortable with too, because that's a different deal. And he could have even had a directive from the head coach that I don't want many RPOs in this game, and this is why. Blah blah blah. I don't know that. I'm just saying that's a possibility. You get a different play caller, you get a different approach. No two guys call the game exactly the same, so that could be that still could come up. You could still see that again as the play caller changes, if in fact that happens, and as the games, the competitive level of the games get tougher. Because we talked about running the ball outside, right? We talked about play action passes, right? We didn't talk about RPOs. That's another way to exploit a loaded box, and a very good way to exploit a loaded box. So I think that'll be part of the plan in the future. How much? I'm going to save my opinion on.
All right. So listen, folks, I want you to if you got questions for Gorgeous Borges, if you were with us last year, toward the end of these episodes, we give you a chance to get your queries answered. So I know some of you have asked some questions already. Throw them in the chat. And when we get to the Q&A portion of it, I'll get as many of your questions in as I can. All right. So, but right now, Al, let's go to the bitter and the sweet. This is where you can talk about the highs and lows, the ups and downs, get a little bit into your grades for the game, and then we'll get to the questions from the people at the very end. So let's talk about your bitter and your sweet.
Okay, well, we'll start with the run game. They only had 122 yards. That for Michigan, that's way below standard. So you can't be happy with that. 3.9 an attempt and one touchdown, and they did not punch the ball inside the 20-yard line on their very reliable wedge play that they so often run. So I don't think they're happy with that. They'll fix that. I'm sure that wedge play has been money for them, and it will be again. But you got a couple different offensive linemen in there that are still learning exactly what they want, and sometimes you need those game reps to get that figured out. So I think that would be one thing. I think they need to perimeter block a little better with the wide receivers, and they weren't terrible, but they weren't great. And a couple of the I think there were two run control plays, one bubble and one line route off a run play where we got muscled a little bit in the perimeter. So I think that's got to get a little bit better. Again, I would add no RPOs. I think that this would, had it been me, I probably would have run a couple just to get them practice, but I can certainly understand why they didn't. I think too, against better teams, and they're going to need a little more misdirection. Now they ran one naked bootleg and it hit big to Bredesen, and I thought that was pretty cool. But they're going to need more reverses and more misdirect type things. I'd like to see them continue to try, or at least develop some kind of screen game. Okay, and when they've used it, which was not much last year, it was extremely effective. And the first thought, of course, is Illinois, which I think the screen game basically bailed them out of that game. So I think that I'd like to see a little bit more of that. And the last thing, Sam, is a plan for number 7 in light of the fact that you have less plays going to be run. You're going to have less plays going to be run during the game. You're down, like I said, to 62, where before, I think they were averaging over 70 plays a game, or right around there anyway. They're not a fast offense team, so they're never going to be at that 80-play level with any consistency. But you're going to need a plan for number 7 where you can get them a few more touches, knowing that those opportunities are not going to be as readily available because there's going to be less plays running the game. So those are the things I think that were the most prominent to me in my mind. From a Sweet perspective, I was just very excited, as I said, about the quarterback play, and particularly the fundamental aspect of the quarterback play. It looked like it took a quantum leap. His accuracy was good. His footwork was good. His exchanges were clean, other than the one time on the goal line. I think we had a little problem on the exchange on a wedge play, if I'm not mistaken. But for the most part, he was pretty clean. Play action was exciting. Oh God, I just love watching those demonstrative fakes in the backfield and the jerking of defenders and the cleared out zones, so you can throw that ball to those receivers and they can run with it. Uh, they shifted. Sweet, I thought also their ability to shift to the outside run game, knowing what was happening. I thought that was good coaching, and I love the way they're using the tight ends. I've said that from the time Harbaugh got here, but they really, unlike so many college teams who are spread sideline to sideline, they're not afraid to use those tight ends in some packed in formations, provide more gaps for the defense to defend. And you're going to see more and more of that as we get into the season. But I just love the way they use the tight end. So for the most part, I think the sweetest thing is that, yeah, they did a good job of containing the Michigan run game, but the quarterback completed, I think, 26 of 31 or 26 of 30, I don't know what it was, for 280 yards and threw 3 touchdowns to Roman Wilson, who is now not only playing slot, but he's also playing the position I call flanker, or the strong side outside receiver. And he was dynamite. And I know what big play dimension he brings to the offense, and they're certainly using him that way. So they had 5 penalties for 35 yards. They possessed the ball 33-26. And with Michigan, as I've said in the past, they are a possession team. So a lot of coaches say, time of possession doesn't mean anything. The hell it doesn't if you're Michigan. They are possessing the team because they are not a fast offense team. So they need to win the time of possession every single week. 26 first downs is about where you want to be. You'd like to be 25 or better, and they certainly met that. The only thing that they only had 4 rushing first downs, which is not common for them. But with 18 passing first downs, they made up for it, and they were 6 for 10 on third down. And JJ made some clutch third down throws. So that's where I stand with the bitter and the sweet.
So, Al, before we get to the questions from the people, a lot of the commentary, a lot of the fan reaction down on the play of the offensive line because of the relative ineffectiveness of the run game compared to what we see customarily from them. What, as you looked at the offensive line position by position and then overall grade, what did you think?
Well, I thought Nugent's a good center, a very good center, and you can tell that he's seasoned. He's played a lot. He's strong and he's tough. He's a little bit mean, and he's very little, if any, drop off from Olu. Okay, he's a great addition, and I think throughout the season he'll do nothing but continue to develop with the other 4 players. Keegan and Zenter were Keegan and Zenter. They look like the same players to me. They're solid, tough, strong, athletic, and I think that they'll be reliable the entire season as long as they stay healthy. I like both of them. Hinton is a big dude, and I had studied him quite a bit when he was at Stanford. He's still learning a little bit of what they want, but he is very effective. I mean, he's still a very good player and very solid. Barnhart, who I had my questions about him playing left tackle and still wonder as he gets into the better teams whether he's capable of playing that position, but he was fine in this game. He had really very, very few problems. So I think I like him there. And I think you have to add to that Trente Jones, who was used in packages more with as a tight end. But I think Trente could make a run at right tackle. And I think they're going to give him an opportunity to do that, from what I understand, and push Hinton at right tackle. So they're solid. I mean, they're solid. They got a lot, and I didn't mention all the offensive linemen. I stopped breaking the film down after JJ came out of the game, so I didn't see it all. But I can tell you this: they're very deep at that position, and I think it is without question a strength.
Yeah, you were really high. I know you watched when Michigan got done with the portal. You watched all their guys, and you were really excited about Ladarius Henderson,
I
right?
was, and I didn't see much of him, but maybe he went in the game late. I didn't watch that, but I think he'll make a contribution before it's all said and done.
All right, folks. Want to remind you the film studies are coming up. So listen, on the film studies, important note: we do not own that footage. All right, I'm making my statement like I do before every one of the film studies. That's not just for effect or for filler. That's so the people, the people who track and come after you for using their footage, so they know we aren't making any money off of their footage. We don't do the film studies are all about us just breaking it down for you, the people. But we are doing fundraisers for each of the film studies this year because Al had me in the studio until 9. Al, my wife was upset I got home so late last night, and it was because of you, Al, that I went
No,
home.
it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was because you erased a play that took an hour to diagram.
Oh
That's
my God!
why
Oh
we
my!
let we were.
It took an
Susan's not speaking to you right now, Sam. I just want you to. My wife is. She's not speaking to you, and I don't. There's nothing I can do to get her back.
Hey, here's what I know. Y'all better like that play. It took
Yeah,
an hour to diagram that play. Oh
there's a lot of details on that one. Yeah,
man.
yeah.
All right. So let's get to the questions for the people. Starting off first, and I'll go back to one of the earliest. And this is from Darren Talks Ball. And he wants to know, does Borges have any concerns considering what ECU was doing with the performance of the offensive line? Any concerns, Al?
No, no. If they were lousy, I would. But no, they're solid and they'll be fine. Just you just got to understand. This is hard sometimes for fans because they get a little spoiled because Michigan's just knocking the crap out of people, 250, 300 yards rushing, and then all of a sudden one game they're not running the ball as well. Okay. And it's, oh, well, the offensive line, they're not playing very good. Well, that's not necessarily true because sometimes there's an overkill. And maybe the coach calls a few plays into some bad scenarios. That happens. Okay. God knows I did it. But as long as you have an answer and that offensive line can execute that answer. How many times was JJ sacked in this game, Sam?
I see him sacked any.
Zero. None. So the offensive line, granted, didn't rush, didn't provide the opportunity to rush for 300 yards, but they provided the opportunity to throw for the quarterback to throw the ball down the field on early downs with play passes and third downs to convert first downs. So, I'm going to go with the grades here in a minute. I'm explaining them, but no, I am not at all concerned about the offensive line because I think they're very capable and deep.
Well, let's yeah, I skipped past your grades, Al. I apologize and jump right to the questions. Go through your grades real quick, then we go back to the
Oh
questions.
yeah, no, I gave the offensive line a C plus to B minus. Now a lot of people say, "Oh, they didn't play that." They did because they provided the opportunity to execute the alternative to not being able to shove dual plays up their butt. Okay, I gave the tight ends a B. I thought they played pretty good. They were solid for the most part. Still a few breakdowns. I think I had 5 minuses by tight ends, but they were solid. The running backs were a B. They weren't spectacular, but they weren't bad. Okay. Gave the wide receivers a C plus, and not necessarily there was a drop, but I thought the perimeter blocking could have been a little better, but they weren't bad other than that. Okay. And the quarterback was an A minus. He had, I think, one bad throw and fumbled the ball, but for the most part, he was good. I mean, he was really good, and he's going to do nothing but get better. So,
Special, man.
yeah, that's how I saw that.
That's the grade. Special. I don't know.
Yeah,
Whatever that is,
that's it. No
that's what he
question.
got. That's what he got in that game. All
Nope.
right. Al, we got some really astute people who tune into this. Al will say this because they want the key, they want the answers. You
Yeah, I'm always asking you, you want me to dumb this down? And you go, no, don't dumb it down. These guys they're ambitious, they're fired up. These are Michigan fans. These are not morons, Sam. These guys are on it. They're on it, Sam. They want the whole thing.
Al feigns being humble. I actually told him I had missed Al. I missed you, Al. That lasted for about an hour. I didn't miss him anymore.
Yeah, no, that I didn't make it that long. So that's good.
Al, but what I was getting to is we got some very astute fans because this guy picked up on a play that you definitely highlighted in our film study. David Giovanni asked your thoughts on Roman's third touchdown, where JJ fakes to the flat, pulls the corner up, and throws an throws an incredible ball, NFL level.
Oh, that was sweet. Okay, David Giovanni, my Paisan friend, he noticed that. Okay, now let me explain that a little bit. Okay, that's I call I have a name for that. It's called what I call an aerial flinch. What he does, he sees the picture, the corner and we're going to detail this. Watch the film study because we're going to show you in in detail how this went. Okay, the corner and the safety kind of retreated or ascended a little bit. They had a corner flat combination or an inverted smash, what we call it. Okay, now what he did is he needed to get that corner route one-on-one with the safety because Roman was double moving him, and then CJ was slipping into the flat off motion. How do you do that? Well, the only way you can do that is to finesse the corner to where he'll jump CJ. So what he did is he flinched, kind of moved his shoulders. Didn't go like this because that takes too long. If you do all that, then try and throw the corner, it'll be late, and the safety will come over. But he gave him a little aerial flinch. He showed his aerial, flinched to the right. The corner took a little bite. He didn't go real hard now, just enough to where he was conscious of CJ, and then he spun and with no loss in timing, shot a strike for a touchdown. That's finessing a touchdown right there. Finessing a touchdown, and you won't find many kids that haven't played a while that are any good at that.
Man, poor corner was in a blender. I think he made 3 different moves on that play.
Yeah, it was something.
He was all over the place. All right, moving on to the next question. It's like this one from Ryan Mullins. Al, do you think we'll see 2 back sets implemented like Clemson was doing to Duke last night? Was super effective. Maybe that was the only thing that was effective.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know if that's a good idea if you're going by what how Clemson made it. I didn't watch a game, but I think you will see some too. You know, Michigan's all about packages, guys. Now in this game, they packaged Mullins and who was it? Edwards for the fly. Okay, they packaged Trente with what I call heavy 22 personnel, which are 2 tight ends, but that second tight end's got a big ass, and that was Trente. Trente was playing left tight end, running behind him, you know, and getting that ball. What's that?
Yeah, big ass.
Yeah, yeah, you got to have nice round butts that can come off and knock the crap out of people. Trente's perfect for that. So, not that the tight ends can't do it, but, you know, hey, got 40, 50 more pounds now. Come on. But packaging is they're so good at this, okay, with their tight ends, multiple receivers. So in answer to the question, yeah, I believe you're going to see some 2 backs. They'll be different. It won't always be Corum and Edwards, although I think you'll see a lot of that too. But you'll see some different stuff just to take advantage of the personnel.
All right, get to the next question. This is an interesting. So you got to know the kid. So right, Tim says, why does Edwards pause and look for the home run every carry? Blake looks more comfortable with blocking schemes. I don't think well, I know it's not that Donovan is uncomfortable with the blocking schemes. It's all about his DNA as a back. And this is sort of the interesting thing for you as a coach, Al, who's coached great backs. And this has to be an exercise for Mike Hart. Donovan thinks home run. He said as much because I've talked to him, and I think I did so on camera a couple times about the split zone that he cut back in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
And he had Al, he had 5 yards easy play side. It was there. Mm-hmm. And he cuts it back and he has to run through 2 guys just to get to the line of scrimmage. Now he did it and ran through like 6 other guys on his way to the end zone. I said, what were you thinking? He was like, I was thinking I want to score. I'm not thinking 5 yards. I'm thinking I want to score. So there obviously has to be a balance there. I asked Mike about it, and he said what he tells guys is, hey, if you're gonna, if you aren't gonna take the sure thing, or if you're gonna go against the design of the play, you better get 4 or 5 yards. You get 4 or 5 yards, I won't say anything. If you don't get 4 or 5 yards, all right, now we got a problem. We're gonna have a conversation about, okay, you need to be a little more disciplined and staying with the design of the play. How did you handle it with guys like Ronnie Brown, Cadillac Williams, great backs that you've coached?
Yeah, the way I would equate it, the difference I think between Donovan and Blake, which is the guys we're basically seeing every day right now, and then looking back on the kids I've coached in the past, is Donovan is more of an easy to fast through type of runner. Okay, he wants to attack the line of scrimmage, but kind of gauging how fast he's doing it. Okay, and that could be mistaken for peeking around and all that. No, it's just not pressing the line, but not pressing it so fast that he can't see the cavities in the defense open, which he does a lot. Now, the downside to that is there's going to be times he's going to get hit in the backfield looking like he's tiptoeing, but Donovan's not a tiptoer. He doesn't do that, but he is going to be a little more easy to fast through, where Blake is more of a fast through, stop and go. You understand what I'm saying? He drives it and says, I'm coming hell bent for leather downhill. And if somebody's in the way, I'll just buzz my feet. My feet are so dynamic that I can avoid defenders going full speed, right? I mean, he has a little bit of a Superman quality to him that a lot of guys don't, where Donovan kind of gauges it a little more. So it's different running styles, just like there's a difference between slashers, power runners, and stop and go runners. I mean, they all do it a little different, but that's how he runs. And as long as he's not denying the hole, denying the opportunity with consistency without a good yield, just like you're talking about, Mike was talking about, Coach, if you're going to deny the hole and you're going to go opposite how we're blocking it, you better come up with some yards. Otherwise, we're going to be complaining. Those linemen are going to be turning around looking to strangle you. But as long as they gain, hey, Barry Sanders lived his life like this now, okay? And I remember I talked to June Jones when June was coaching back then, and he had a running back coach that was always trying to correct Barry. But come on now. After a while, June said, shut up. Shut up. Gotcha.
All right. Here we go with another one. This one from Kevin Page on Facebook said, Al, do you think we'll see more deep shots with eight or nine men in the box? I'm very sure other teams will try to implement that strategy on us.
Yeah, you will. You got 4 in this game off play passes. I predict 6 or more in the next game. Yes. Answer that question is affirmative. I'd be shocked. But he's good at it. And the receivers are getting down the field. They can protect it. Why wouldn't you? Right? And it's not as though they weren't given a lot of pressure. So there was not a concern about the protection. And when Michigan goes into their shot offense or play pass shot off, they tend to hold more people in to block. So your quarterback is usually unfettered when he makes the throw. So, yes, I don't see why they wouldn't.
All right. This one from Jason Acuff. If I'm not mistaken, we talked last year. And, Jason, aren't you related to Cheeks Acuff, the number 1 point guard in the country in 2025, who just took his official visit to Michigan, his first official last weekend? Is that you, Jason? That's probably why I put your question up on the screen. It's not really a question. It just says, so I saw one of Ohio State's quarterbacks wearing number 33. I'm not worried about him. Yeah, Devin Brown. I think that was it. Was Sammy Baugh?
Sammy Baugh. Yeah, just like Devin wore 98 for Tom Harmon. It's just a page out of the past. It's kind of cool. I mean, I don't think much of it. I just have trouble looking at a quarterback wearing 33 and 98, but
I mean, you saw him on the sideline. I guess I granted I was flipping back and forth from that game, and I didn't watch it all the way through. But I was just surprised. I expected to see them kind of splitting, time with those guys, and it was mostly the Kyle McCord show. I don't know if that was indicative of how they were being played or just more confidence in McCord or not. But especially when the offense isn't really clicking, because I thought they were going to blow Indiana out. Indiana had the worst defense in the league last year, and Ohio State put 30 on them.
Yeah, Iowa State's going through some growing pains now. They've been spoiled. They've been able to have a guy step into that position and hit the ground running, and they got all these dynamic receivers, which is great. But this is going to be a little slower than they want this time. Not that they won't; they could still win and still do what they've done, but I don't think it's going to be a 60 points a game type proposition for a while, if at all.
All right, you kind of touched on this, Al. Kevin is back with another question. Kevin Page, he said, Coach Al, will the new clock rules affect high-tempo offensive teams?
Yeah, affects everybody. High tempo, low tempo, whatever. You're in an NFL type situation now, guys. They're not stopping that clock on first downs. So you're losing plays, okay? Getting to 80 and 90 plays a game isn't going to be easy to do. And if you look at the amount of plays run by college teams this last week and compare them to the NFL, it's very similar. So it is going to affect them. Their approach, I don't think will be any different. I think they'll still do what they do. There's just going to be less plays run.
Yeah, man, I got an update coming, by the way. Appreciate the tip. Jason, that just confirms What I was hearing about Cheeks, said he loved it. D. Walt working really hard. Derek Walton working really hard to help Michigan out. His former coach still on staff here, Sadi Washington, Khalil Felder, another dude he looks up to. Sadi coached him over at Oakland. So, we'll see how that one goes. Still early in that recruitment, I know. Let's get back to the questions. And the next one. Al, see, we talk hoops too. You gotta get it in there. Gotta get it in there. All right.
Yeah, they're running around their underwear as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead.
Of course you would say that. Al, David Bresson says, Al, what do you think about getting Edwards more touches by having a package with both him and Corum on the field at once, considering Edwards' potential as a true receiving threat?
I vote yes, absolutely, yeah. And they did that a year ago. I mean, they did that several for some big plays, I might add. Okay, so yeah, you're gonna see that. It's just a matter of time. Now, how much of that you want to do in these first three games, I don't know. And now you're it goes back to that same argument Joe Simon's always making, and it's a good one. Is do you want to feature it so you can get it on film, practice it, and or do you want to save it so that it blindsides the opponent? And that's for the coach to decide. Now, I know as a coordinator, I always save something. And if I thought it would create a big play against a good team, I would save it. But there's nothing wrong with throwing a few Corum Edwards plays in there and not being the plays you're going to use against Ohio State. You know what I mean? But yes, I think you got to have something, and they will. They did. They have a history of it. So I would expect it. How much, will be by game plan, but I think you're going to see it.
Yeah, I think it's the save. They were saving it. Very, very vanilla offensive approach. Just like I'm convinced this is more just a feeling than anything else that they are saving more RPO too. I think both of those things are on the horizon.
I think
Both
so
guys
too.
are back. But that I know they practiced a lot. They practiced Blake and Donovan together a lot in the offseason. So, or in camp. Let's get back to the questions and go to the next one. And this one is another clock question. So, just to pick up, considering the clock change, how much does that affect U of M wearing out teams in the second half with a good 12 less plays per game?
I think a little bit. Yeah, it does because there's less plays the defense has to run. But when you're pounding their ass and you're running dual plays and getting those double teams and wearing people down, it'll affect it some because there'll be less, but I still think that you can still have that effect on the defense even with less plays because I see some NFL teams do it in 4-minute drills where they'll, run double tights and run time off the clock, and you can see that the team is wearing down a little bit. So will it? Yeah, some, but I still think it can be a strategy that can be implemented.
All right. Matt Faraj said, are we missing Schoonmaker in line more than the supposed O-line issues? Do you think it was tight end ineffectiveness in the run game?
Not. And School was he was a good inline blocker. Now he developed as a blocker, Sam, because he wasn't as good early, but he got good at it. And it'd be nice to have him again. But they've got very capable blockers, and they got very capable inline blockers, and they have Trente to get his big ass in there when they need, to run behind some more meat. So I don't see Bredesen has taken another step, although he's more of a move guy, but. I think their tight ends will hold up just fine, particularly these first three games. I think the real gauge for that will be once you get into the better competition to see how they're blocking those big seven techniques against Penn State and whatever. So, but I like the tight ends, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. But that's taking nothing away from Schoonmaker.
All right, so Al, I know this is in part. We'll close with this question for me. This is in part dependent upon the opponent, but let's set aside that UNLV might play a different defense or have a different approach than ECU. Based on what you saw against ECU, game plan the next game for me. What would you want to feature? What would you want to emphasize? What would you focus on? What do you think Sharon is gonna kind of want to work in this game after watching it from his couch in the last game?
Continue to develop your base offense because duos are always going to be a part of that, and I still believe that you got to make them prove they can stop that play before you decide you're going to run less of them. because if they can't, I just continue to run it, and I'm certain that Strom is going to think that way. I'd throw a reverse in there somewhere just so you get one on tape, so they know you got it, even if you never run it again, or the same reverse again the rest of the season. I would see to it that I would implement a few run pass options. Again, more for practice than anything else. But who knows? You got in a tight game, it may win you the game. But I'm just saying, I think that would be a good approach. But more than anything, Sam, the two things I think they have to keep on pounding is outside run game. Okay, whether it be fly sweeps, whether it be pitch sweeps, which they don't do much. Okay, uh, stretch plays, that has got to continue to develop so that it's, if not the best part of their run game, at least the second best part of their run game. And then the play action. Just keep doing that because you got the guys to do it. You got the guys to do it. There's nothing that should keep you from getting those people off the line of scrimmage by taking some shots down the field.
Or one thing, I know I said that was my last question, but conspicuous in his absence, and I wonder, was this more about Jerome not being on the ones and twos as opposed to how ECU was playing him? But conspicuous in his absence, no pin and pulls. There are no pin and
No,
pulls in this game.
no, and I think some of that was because of so much action going on inside. Uh, they just didn't want to get leaks, so those plays didn't get started. I'm just guessing. I mean, I don't really know, and it could be saving them too. But
Pin and
you're
pulls
getting
did leak.
pinnacle.
They leaked against TCU for
Yeah,
sure.
they did, and that was an issue. Okay, so they may have said, "I don't want any holes, any separation in our blockers in this game." Okay, so if we run the ball, we're going to run it with dual plays or stretch type schemes. We're not going to, or power plays. We didn't mention power plays, but the power play hit first, where you can gap all those guys off, and you may pull one guy, but you're not pulling two and three guys like you do on the pin and pull. So it's just a little less risky when you're talking about running the ball sideways and getting plays started. So I think, but those are in the plan, Graham. Just stay tuned because you're going to get pinnables. You got athletic offensive linemen and backs that run those plays very well. So it's just a matter of time before they show up.
Josh Pete Newkirk wanted to throw this one in. What's up, Josh? Said, Al, I believe you coached 2 former first round quarterback picks, Kate McNown, Jason Campbell, correct? How does JJ McCarthy's skill set compare? Do you believe he has first round draft grade potential?
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, okay, what's a first round draft pick? Okay, the first round draft pick is a guy that can throw accurately with a strong arm. First round draft pick is a guy that's got enough mobility to evade defenders, to get passes off, and if he can run, all the better, right? Okay, first round draft pick is composed and accurate, and a first round draft pick has functional intelligence under pressure. Okay, first round draft picks don't have to be 6'3", but if they are, that's kind of nice. Okay, and first round draft picks are generally winning quarterbacks in college. Check, 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 and check. Yes, I think he's a first round draft pick. Now, we're not anointing him because we won't do that until we've seen a sample size of 2 full seasons, but he certainly has the skill set to be a high pick.
All right. So that's going to do it for this episode, folks. I got to get over and get Al's film study in after spending hours upon hours diagramming plays.
Oh,
so they take a long time, but we love
yeah,
it.
they do.
We love.
I'm, of course, going to expect a significant raise this year, Sam. Not so much for the work ethic as just the tolerance level I have to deal with when I'm working with you.
Which is why, I mean, it's a great segue. The film studies pay nothing because we cannot monetize those. So in order to fund the effort, so we can keep the film studies going, we have a campaign. We have a fundraising campaign for each of the film studies. I'm going to drop the one for the Michigan offensive breakdown with Al Borges right here in the comments right now. So it's going to say show love for the offensive film study with Al Borges right here. You can see it right there as I'm dropping it in right now. And we will drop that film study tomorrow. To give you the schedule again, Devin 9 to 10 for his Monday morning quarterback. Al, noon till 1. We went a
Corrections,
little
noon to 1.
noon to 1 on Tuesday. And then 5:30 to 6:30, the defensive breakdown with Vance. Right after the defensive breakdown with Vance, that's when Devin's film study will go up. Then Wednesday, both Al's and Vance's film studies will go up, and we will have these fundraisers for the film studies going on for the remainder of the season. So show some love for the breakdowns, please. I got to deal with Al hours upon hours breaking down plays. All right. Oh, and one more thing. Don't forget, debut the first episode of Steady Dropping Dimes with Daniel Horton and Devin Gardner. That's tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Set your reminders. That's when we talk some Michigan, but we really get outside the box. We talk some Michigan. We definitely spend some time because we all love Ann Arbor. We came together on that, talked about that, and then we get all sports. So a lot of talk about college football and the start of the NFL season tomorrow on that show with Steady Dropping Dimes. So show some love, by the way, to the football breakdown with Al Borges throwing that in. And we will see you next time on the Michigan football breakdown with Michigan's or former Michigan offensive coordinator, Gorgeous Borges. We'll see you then. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.
Look forward to it. Go Blue.